Hello, and thank you for joining this session of We Love SEO, organized by Oncrawl. This panel discussion is AI in search, where do we stand, and is it important? This is session 5 of We Love SEO, and I am going to give you just a few notes before we get started. We'll give people a few more minutes to log in. I am Danielle Escaro. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Oncrawl, and I will be your moderator for this session. The few notes that I wanted to give you, as I said, there will be a replay of this panel discussion that you will receive a few days later. You'll email it to you, so don't worry about that. This discussion is planned to last about 40 minutes, and it'll be followed by a question and answer session. So don't hesitate to ask your questions in the dedicated tab at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible. And so with that being said, I am very pleased to be joined by a brilliant panel of guests, Andreas, Syphaïwong, Corentin, and Kevin. And before we get started with the heart of the matter, I'm going to let everyone do just a quick introduction of themselves. We'll start with you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm Kevin. I'm an advisor to fast-growing tech startups, and I write a weekly newsletter. That's me in a nutshell.
Very quick. Syphaïwong?
Hello, my name is Syphaïwong. I'm the founder of Assonance Agency based in Reims near Paris, and we mostly do sustainable content strategy.
And Andreas?
Hi, I'm Andreas, founder, SEO of and CEO of Artios. Been doing SEO for 20 years. Wrote this book, Data-Driven SEO, Python, published by Springer, and I've said too much. Thank you.
And Corentin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Corentin. I'm the head of international development here at SAMG. About 10 years, nearly a decade now, in the SEO industry. Before that, in e-commerce agencies. It was on Magento 1, so it was a while ago. Again, thanks for having me. And guys, don't be shy. I'm sure we will have a lot to discuss.
Perfect. Thank you for those introductions. And thank you again for agreeing to be part of this panel discussion. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that we keep hearing about, which is AI. Hold on, I'm trying to get the presentation to go. There we go. AI, as search professionals, why are we still talking about it? Why is it important that it remains part of the conversation? I'd like this to kind of be an opener question so everyone can kind of jump in, but I'll start with you, Syphaïwong.
Actually, I think that AI is such a trend that we must be interested in AI. We have to study it, and this is very important to get a holistic point of view on it, to be effective, to be efficient, and to do our work the best we can.
Okay.
If I may, I think we need to launch it. Why are we talking about AI? I think it's, as you said, an elephant in the middle of a room, in the middle of porcelain room, because it's everywhere. Basically, as search professional, Google, search engines, even not Google, like Perplexity, ChatGPT, all of that are AI powered. Of course, it's obvious for ChatGPT or for Perplexity, but even Google, it's been years since it's AI powered, since BERT, and even before that, it's been AI powered. So we need to be AI minded as SEO or search professional.
Andreas,
your mic is off.
I think you're talking, but you can't hear you. Your mic is off.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I would 100% agree. AI has changed. It's turned the SEO and the search results upside down. Especially if you read Kevin's newsletter, which I highly recommend, and I'm a paid subscriber to. it really, first of all, it's changing the dynamics as to how people get information online, and it may not always come through Google. We as SEO professionals are having challenges on measuring what the visibility now is online via search, which doesn't necessarily come through Google. But it's also an opportunity both to reduce costs and increase speed and increase quality if done in the right way. I don't want to say too much again, so it's going to become my catchphrase in this webinar. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. AI. Real quick, maybe if I can chime in, I wanted to add a little perspective on the numbers side to this. So number one, right, ChatGPT, the second fastest consumer product ever to reach 1 million people. The big tech companies are expected to spend about $300 billion in capital expenditures next year just to facilitate AI. Maybe a third data point is that I recently asked my LinkedIn following whether they had used ChatGPT more often instead of Google search in the last 6 months. And I got about 1,000 responses, and 2/3 of them said yes. And take that with a grain of salt, right? It's a small sample size. But I think, this disrupts everything in technology. It also disrupts SEO. Not just in terms of where people search, but also how people search. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet, on the latest earnings call said that people ask a lot longer questions now that they get AI overviews or AI answers in the search results. So I'll leave it at that, but I just wanted to show the extent to which AI disrupts everything. And I think it's dangerous to not think about how this disrupts SEO as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Kevin, because I think that leads us right into our next question. How much of search is already driven by AI? I think, Andreas, did you want to jump in?
Yeah,
Kevin?
sure. Search engines have always used some form of AI. Machine learning is a subset of AI, as AI is a subset of data science. So it's just got better and better. We've seen, primitive models, that are at least a decade old of, using algorithms like TF-IDF to help, get the essence of what this URL content is about. And now we've got, I remember 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was reading reports and patents of how Google was, training, AI on loads of documents to get a sense of how language works. So it was building up to Gemini. It's always been there. It's just got better.
Okay. Kevin, did you want to elaborate on what you were saying?
Yeah, totally. I love, Andreas, I love that point because you can look at the question from different angles, right? You can talk about how search engines use AI or machine learning algorithms in ranking. You can use it. You can look at it also from indexing and crawling. I think that's like a little under observed, but then also for giving the answers right away. And I think this is new and this is a bit groundbreaking. We obviously have AI overviews, not everywhere in the world, right? I can talk a little bit about why we don't have it in the EU, or why I think we don't have it in the EU yet, or rather will come. But search engines giving the answers to that degree is a massive shift. We had featured snippets for a long time, but there was still an excerpt from a website. Now search engines are writing the answer. And I think that the shift that we all need to make in our minds as well is that it changes search from a model that is incentivized to send traffic away to an engagement platform that is incentivized to keep traffic on the platform. Now, you can argue that Google has been trying successfully to keep more traffic on the platform already with SERP features. But these AI answers, again, their goal is to keep people on the platform, even though they have links. And that means our approach to SEO, if that persists, should be much more similar to YouTube than to classic Google.
And if we take the question from another angle, because guys, we were talking about how the SERP is looking basically and the way to use search engines, but we as SEO professional or search professional work in a total different way right now, because you always have your personal assistant. So you don't need a data scientist to tell you, okay, you need to extract that data and that's the resume and all of that, because you can do that on each and every AI. Even ChatGPT on its free version can do that for you. If you are more of a content person on SEO, it's easy to have a kind of a brainstorming with an AI. You don't have to book a meeting with 10 people in the room. Like you can do many things differently right now with AI. And of course, the impact is your compassion will be a bit more intense because it's way easier to do different things now. And so you need to adapt also in the way that you work on a daily basis.
And if I may, there is something happening maybe for a few months now. I can see a lot of people who use AI as a search engine, because we're talking about how the search engine is evolving with AI in the EU or not. But a lot of people I can see on the streets, in some restaurants, they have something, they are wondering about something, and they're just speaking to their phone, but they are not using, for example, Google and the vocal search. They are just saying a question to ChatGPT on their phone, on the app. So I think that there is something interesting in the generative AI tools that are becoming the search engines of tomorrow, but maybe of today for a range of users, maybe for the youngest one. I wanted to say the young one, but I want to believe that I'm young again, and I'm young. But you can see there is something different in the way we use not the search engine, but the way we want to get a new information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's very interesting, Syphaï, what you're saying, because if you measure success, thank you, I mean it. If you measure success the old way, you're going to have a problem. If you only measure clicks coming from the SERP, if you only measure conversion coming from the SERP, you will miss a huge part of the traffic. Right now, it's still marginal. I think it should be about 3 to 5%. So it's marginal. But tomorrow, it's going to be maybe 10, 15, 20% of your traffic. So overall, you can't miss that. So the way you do your reporting to your management, for example, if you're only Google-based, like organic-based, don't do that. You're going to have a problem. You need to be able to track and measure the success coming from Perplexity, GPT, whatever, many tools. So you need to add those channels to your report.
I think, Corentin, that leads us into the question.
Sorry,
that we have coming up
next.
Maybe, no, it's a great lead-in, because as you were saying, search is changing. So is SEO. How is that impacting what we do as SEOs? I'll throw it back to you, Corentin, since you started.
Okay. I can follow that path. Yeah. So of course, the way you measure success is one thing, of course. But I would say the main thing is you should not focus your company and your team on quantity. I've seen so many clients saying, okay, I want to produce 1,000 pieces of content. That's my goal. We don't care about that, because everybody can do it. Right now, you click on one button and you can do it. So it's not a differentiator. Of course, if you do not produce a certain amount of content, you're going to have a problem. But again, it's not the difference, it's the basic. So the differentiation will come from quality, and quality mean who you are as a brand, what are your added value, and what is your expertise, what is your knowledge, how do you create unique value, how do you provide unique insights to your audience. If you're, selling, if you're a law firm, if you're a finance company, you have data. So you need to exploit the time you save on production to build unique insights, to create differentiation to your audience. I think that's the biggest impact. I talked about success measurements. And yeah, I'll finish, because otherwise I could talk an hour about it, but I have other colleagues.
And Kevin, what did you think?
Yeah, I want to highlight a perspective here, which is about not just how how AI changes the whole, like search engines and where people search and how they search, but also how we work. It's often forgotten that AI also gives us superpowers, not just search. And one thing that I'm very convinced about that we're going to adopt next year is this idea of systems building. So there are new no-code tools that you can combine with AI. I don't want to name names specifically, but tools that allow you to drag and drop, or even code if you want to, a sequence of different workflows. Like, for example, go to the search results, scrape all the search results, bring them back, then scrape all the web pages, analyze their content, create new content. Those would be 4 to 5 different steps. And we now have tools, and we're seeing more and more tools that make it super easy, even for non-technical people, to build these kind of workflows. And that is incredibly powerful. I use ChatGPT and Claude all the time to do technical tasks, sometimes even a little bit of coding that I wasn't able to do before. And I think that enablement of marketers to become more technical is incredibly powerful, and will allow us to not just, again, build systems instead of single campaigns, but also to build little products and experiences and tools for our audience. So I even see a bigger shift down the road, which is less text, less explaining people how to do things, and more marketers actually building the tools with the help of LLMs or AI, whatever. And that's gonna raise the value of marketers significantly.
Andreas, I think you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I did. I think it's to add to Kevin's point and Corentin's. It's a profound change at both the technical and the content, and I'll try and keep it very quick. So on the technical side, I've always found the better SEOs on the technical side have at least got their hands dirty to try and build their own website. And try and optimize it and get it ranking, even if it's for made up keywords, right? And I think that's really important because the best way to get good is to learn fast, and the best way to learn fast is to test and implement what you read or learn online and try. And to take that further, now with LLMs, I built my own LLM just before ChatGPT 2 was announced years ago, and that's given me some insight into the kind of trigger words that we may think are innocuous or obvious, but search engines would pick up a mile off, right? Because LLMs have certain habits, and so now I think it raises the bar that to succeed in SEO from a technical standpoint, it's not enough to just it's not enough to just know how to build a website. You're now going to have to, if you really want to get ahead, start at least building mini LLMs of your own, even if you don't have access to millions of documents. And on the content side, I think, as Corentin was saying about quality, absolutely, you can use the automated pipelines that Kevin mentioned, and when we talk about quality, you could do primary research, or at least synthesized secondary research, to inject that proprietary value into your content that you perhaps would have spent thousands of dollars doing before, in order to make your content link worthy.
Syphaï, did you have anything to say? I know you're big on content.
I might have an unpopular opinion about this, because I can see that there is AI available in more and more tools and app, and even if it's not useful, and I think this is quite annoying, and this is something I blame marketing for. Like, okay, let's say you have a coffee machine, let's put AI in it, and it's so annoying. I hate this trend. So stop putting AI everywhere just because it's trendy, please.
Okay.
I must agree. I mean, it's almost like AI for the sake of it, right? I mean, it's like, like you said, the coffee machine, let's just make it AI.
Let's just make AI. Okay, fine. I did it with blockchain. So, yeah.
There was actually a study where researchers looked at the consumer sentiment towards AI, and they found that when companies promise to do AI, but they don't actually do something spectacular, then it actually has a negative effect. And the better way to call it is either intelligent or smart. And I think the best branding is actually from Apple, once again, right? Apple Intelligence, AI. It says AI, but it says intelligence at the same time.
But there's also something for if you take the point of view maybe of a business owner, that when you put some AI, I can see that this is happening in France, for example. But when you say you have AI or you want to develop some AI features, it's very easier to get funds from your bank and from the states, because it's so trendy and they want to be something like the company can be more attractive thanks to AI. So and I think this is something like it's a phenomenon that I don't like, because it's okay, let's do something trendy, or let's say we are doing something trendy just to get the fund and the attention, and that's just annoying. I don't have any other words.
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because while it can be very useful, it's also
so can be very useful.
It can be just there to be trendy. And so that, again, you're giving me great segues. This leads me to my next question. What are the risks of using AI, particularly for content creation, which is something that we mentioned before? Sypha, if you want to.
Because I think that content is a bit of my field, but I'm not afraid by AI. I'm afraid more by the users of the AI app, because, for example, ChatGPT is so easy. Kevin just has said that it helps non-technical people to become a bit more technical. It's like the no code to AI that the ChatGPT and generative AI in general. But now we are under pressure to create more and more content, because we are working in such a competitive industry, and it's like, my competitor is doing X content, I have to do more content, and we are under this kind of pressure, and this is a bad motivation, because we want to do more and more content, and it makes the real risk for me is that we do content that are not proofread enough, and I don't want to say that it's not quality. That the generative contents can't be something good, because we can do a good thing in bulk. Actually, we can optimize workflows, etc. But I'm very afraid of the fact that we are trusting the AI that much that we don't proofread, that we are not like enough demanding. We just let something happen because an AI did it. But if a human copywriter was doing the exact same thing, we would be very angry, and that can happen. I can see that a lot of people, like they trust AI more than a person in some cases, and that's quite dangerous, because it makes appear a lot of opportunities for AI to hallucinate and to do some misinformation. And I think that the main risk for me is that, yes, we want to do content. We have a tool that can help us very efficiently, but maybe too much.
If I may, because I think that's the same idea. I mentioned quantity over quality, I think, is the main risk. And I think that's what Sypha was saying. And an AI is not unequal to another AI. And I think we need education in the market to understand that AI means a lot of things. And when you have a prompt of 10 pages, put that in an AI, it's not the same as I have one sentence, write a 1,000 word article. It's not a prompt, it's a demand, and your article is going to be, I was about to be impolite. So basically, it's the kind of thing that could be a risk with using AI. The second thing is, if you do that, if you have a volume first approach, you will have the same content everywhere. And again, I think it's going to be a problem on the long run. So I would say that that's the quantity versus quality approach. And some type of strategy are now more risky than it used to be. For example, for years, it was really interesting to go for Wikipedia type of strategy, like guides, those kind of things were working really well. Now, with a ChatGPT, as was what Syphaïwong was saying, if you talk to your phone, you will have an answer. And it's going to be way better than what you have on Wikipedia because it's going to be faster. The source is going to be exactly the same, Wikipedia. And so that kind of long tail question are not something you should go for, because on the long run, it's going to, those kind of keywords will be an AI search first approach. So focus more on consideration and conversion type of keyword. Otherwise, it's risky, I strongly believe.
Okay. And I understand your point of saying that it's important to educate, but that is one of the steps. What else can we do to use AI safely? What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. There is certainly something to be said about corporate governance. So I'm working with a lot of companies right now who are very eager to use AI, and they're being held back by their legal or procurement department. And I think there's a certain healthy forcing function in being held back, right? I think I think in some cases it's actually not a bad idea for legal and procurement to say, hey, how do we know, what this tool will spin out, what we're going to say, are we going to get in danger anywhere? So I think there is probably a healthy balance and probably a healthy conversation that marketing or growth and legal and procurement teams need to have to draw the right boundaries around AI. A lot of times right now, you can still solve these issues with a human in the loop, right? Instead of just creating content and then publishing it, you have a human who's responsible for checking and QAing the AI content to make sure there's nothing wrong in there. Long term, I think we can automate that away. There are already more fact-checking LLMs and APIs coming out that kind of do that job for us. But I think for now, having a human in the loop is the first kind of safety gap that you want to have. And then second, there's also something to be said about how you use AI to create content. So I think the sloppy, risky way is to just give it prompts and then use that content. I think the much better way is to have proprietary or unique data that you create content around. Surveys, product data, maybe public data set, right? Data.gov type of stuff. I've actually done that with a couple of clients already, like 2 years ago, and that content still performs really well. And it doesn't just perform well in search, it also performs well in engagement and pipeline. So the second stopgap, I think, is to be very rigid about how you create that AI content and what basis you need or you use. And then I think as a third part, there's certainly something to be said about images and video AI generation as well. But I think it's more going to become a topic for next year, since all the technology is very nascent.
Okay. Andreas, did you have anything to?
Yeah, I have a bit of 1, 2, 3. I think, and that definitely syncs with what Kevin's saying. Especially with clients that I have in regulated industries, there definitely has to be a bit of safety. So I think the first thing is that you can use you can actually pay the premium to make sure that whatever you prompt doesn't end up being part of the training pool for the next iteration or next release of the next, say, ChatGPT, for example. So that's one thing, and that will help avoid you getting sued should anything confidential. And secondly, try and avoid putting confidential information in there. Thirdly, something that I've done, which plays to what Kevin was talking about with surveys, is I've actually created my own kind of LLM built from several years ago to do actual primary research, and it's that proprietary value that, if you just give you some context, we've got a web that was pretty much 99% copy paste up until 2 years ago, but now, with LLMs, we've now got a web that's 99.9999% copy paste, and that just adds to the challenge for all search engines and of any kind, Google or Perplexity. So the thing is that proprietary research, primary research being injected, is one way to wave that flag to the search engines, old and new, that you've actually got something unique to be made visible, but also to earn backlinks on autopilot. So this is something that, and also use it for ideation. But one thing you definitely don't want to do is copy and paste the LLM output and then put it into your article.
Okay.
Yeah. We often say in the AI world, shit in, shit out. Sorry, that's my French word. So I think it's true, and I think you always need to have that in mind when you do whatever with an AI generated tool. So if and maybe that's going to be my last intervention, because I think that's the main thing that we need to talk about today is you need to build your knowledge base. You need to create unique knowledge that is your in-house expertise. If you don't have that, you're going to be like everybody else. And as we know, if you're not different, you're not going to make a good point, and so you're not going to be performing on the web. So either you have the capacity to do that, you have Andreas with you, for example, or you have an in-house team, or you buy a tool that is able to do that. Like, for example, and I don't want to be salesy, that's the kind of thing that we do at SMG. We are able to have knowledge base, and so you can do it as a marketing team. But thanks to AI, and I think, Andreas, you mentioned that I think that's one of the main difference between 5 years ago and now. Like, the technology is, of course, different, but I think it's who is able to use it that is the main difference. Because for you, Andreas, maybe it's not that different because you have the technical capacity to use an LLM from a coding perspective. I don't. So for you and me, it's a bit different.
Okay. Thank you, Corentin. But I want to kind of broaden the question a little bit.
Can I just add something? I would just wanted to say that we can do something. We can use AI safety for content generation and other things, but in my opinion, we should use it for what it really can do and not for what we fantasize. For example, we don't, because in a content generation perspective, we always think about what can an AI do, but what we want to keep for ourselves too, as human beings, and maybe for experts in a field. So the AI is very effective for something, but we have to also accept that there are some things that it cannot do because it's not conceived for it.
Okay, so that opens up the question, what can it do? What can we use it for as search professionals?
I don't know about search, but I just inject a bit of fun in here, if I may. I've built my own neural network models to help me pick better stocks, and it seems to be working quite well for me.
Interesting.
I'm only telling you this because I don't have the answer yet. I think I've said quite a lot already, so which may have answered this question in previous questions. So
Probably.
over to Kevin.
Yeah, totally. I already mentioned or covered. I love the stock pick, by the way. Already covered the systems building aspect. The other thing is, I mean, there's more research coming out about how AI makes writers better, how it makes consultants better, how it makes, to your point, right, earnings analysis better. So maybe to abstract that a layer higher, I use it all the time as a thought partner. Help me think through this, blah 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 blah. Or one of my favorite exercises and prompts is I'll upload a slide deck and I'll say, how would a CMO critique or ask questions about the slide deck, or how would a CEO think about this? So you can do different role plays all by yourself. And so thought partner, writing partner, and I think the interaction, the question answer play back and forth is almost the biggest value, right? Something that I didn't say earlier, but that I think is critical is that all the obvious stuff is going to be automated away or answered by AI, right? So when we talk about content, right, all the what is SEO, how to do it, that all doesn't matter anymore. That's going to be answered by AI. What is going to be more interesting is the questions that we don't ask yet, right? Like, what is something that I haven't asked that I don't have on my radar? And that is probably one of the biggest values that I can see from AI. It helps you discover your blind spots, and it can help you understand if you're even asking the right questions to begin with about your search strategy, the content quality, the topics you cover, the way you think about certain things, right? And of course, you want to take that with a grain of salt. But I think those are some of the AI capabilities that we can use that are not purely SEO focused, but very, very underrated in my opinion.
Okay.
I actually have a search-related answer now.
Okay. Go for it.
Sorry. I would have to agree, and I lost it. Over to Syphaï.
I don't know do you know the comic duo called the angry translator, when someone is saying something very very softly and there is an angry translator behind him.
Yes.
I think that we can use AI as an angry translator, but for work in the in the business area, because we've got for example in my case, I'm a more content person, but I'm very technical, but I know there are a lot of people around me that are mostly content editorial and marketing people. So it's quite difficult for them to, for example, to communicate with dev, technical teams, etc. And I think that AI can help us to communicate more easily. For example, to as Kevin said, like how a dev would prioritize this thing. Is it a priority for him when he is maintaining a whole website, or is my request something very not that important for him? So how can I communicate that my needs? How can I tell him that it's quite important for me to optimize a title, for example, whereas for him it's just some words in a title tag, so it's not important for him, but it's very important for me. It's crucial for me. So I think that the generative AI side of AI can maybe help us to communicate, to build not better team, but more a team that can be that everything is working like more softer. I don't know, but something smoother for everyone. And I think that this could be a very good thing for our mental health as well.
If I may, Danielle, we are talking a lot about Gen AI, but AI is not only Gen AI, I think, and that's something that we forgot a lot, I think, because of course with the rise of ChatGPT and with all the noise around it, AI equal Gen AI, but I believe it's not. And I think I'm right on that part. So one of the ways to use AI that is very efficient as search professional is also for competitive analysis. That's one of the tasks that we are doing by hand, and it's so time consuming. So even in big companies like huge insurance companies, huge banks, companies that we work with, for example, they don't have the time to do it. So they do it maybe once a year, and that's when we are lucky. But it's moving so fast because of the competition, because of the algorithm, because of the way people search, etc. You need to have that competitive landscape whenever you want, and to take action based on that competition data. And AI is the best way to do that, because you can classify a whole website, even of millions of pages, like that. It's not true. It takes a while, but it's way faster than what you would do by hand. And it's going to be even better because you can classify by line of business, you can classify by persona, you can have some cross classification, you can do some things that you could have dreamed of like 5 years ago. So I would say it's one of the best ways to use AI to be efficient.
Okay.
Yeah, just to your point, Corentin, as an example, I'm using the OpenAI API to come up with title tag optimizations at scale. It could do it quickly depending on which model you check. I'm using it to check whether as a first pass, whether a piece of content is passing the Google search guidelines and make suggestions of what it can improve. Even as a general SEO, I'm not saying you have to buy my book, but if you wanted Python code to like help you sort of process data, in your notebook, the AI can do that. Now, obviously it'll be generic, but the feedback I've got from my readers is like, it's a bit of a pain having to copy paste code that is kind of generic, that yes, helps you solve SEO problems from a data science perspective. But I'm actually creating and launching I'm launching a chatbot that will say that I want to find the high value keywords in my data, give me the code that does that and explain why it works. So, I mean, this is just scratching the surface, right, of how all of us are finding creative ways to use AI in search.
Yeah, I think we could go on for quite some time, but for the sake of the audience and the time limit, I'm going to ask one last question as kind of a conclusion. So maybe in like 1 or 2 sentences, I'd also like to leave maybe 5 or 10 minutes for questions. Where do you see AI taking us in the future? Kevin, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So as mentioned already, I think next year is going to be pretty wild. I think video and audio capabilities are going to get even better. So a lot of time, I think one thing that we'll see next year is more sites summarizing their blog articles into a video that's probably good enough to consume, or into like a quick audio snippet. So there's a multimodality shift. The other thing is I'm very bullish on agentic LLMs or agents, better said. Perplexity has already launched an e-commerce agent. And look, like it's not perfect, takes a long time, gets things wrong. There's still humans in the loop. But the next point of evolution, it seems, is a shift from LLMs to agents that do things for us. So again, buy things, maybe other small actions, maybe scheduling on the calendar, maybe writing emails all by themselves, all that kind of stuff. We'll slowly tap into that next year. And then I think, again, 3, we're going to see our work shift from single campaigns to systems that I've already spoken a lot about. So these are kind of the 3 things I'm pretty bullish about.
Okay. Syphaï?
I've got a wish for the future for us. I would like that AI, that search won't be too much influenced by AI because, yes, it is very interesting to get answers and via AI with generative content, what the forecast, etc. But I think that what's interesting with a SERP is that we have the choice, even if we are not going to go deep down into the second page, for example. But I think it's very important to get the choice to choose where we want to click or not, what information is relevant for us or not, and not letting an AI decide everything for us, like what information is very relevant, because we have to choose. We have to choose, and it's important that we get our own opinion and about what we want to read, what we don't want to read, and maybe what kind of sources we trust or not. And yes, it's a real wish, and AI is a very great opportunity. Maybe it will save us from the recession we've got nowadays, but also I think that curiosity and critical thinking is much more important.
Okay. Andreas?
Yeah, I mean that today's LLM models, according to the Economist, has cost around $1 billion to develop, and everybody's racing to build the next big leap in generative AI, which they reckon will cost 10 billion as a power requirement. But it's definitely going to disrupt the economy. There's going to be a real kind of skills gap between. There's going to be a lot of jobs, that become redundant, and that means it's going to force us to really learn, what it means to work. Skills training will change. Maybe even the education sector as to, what is it we need to teach our children. Starting with Kevin's daughter, my daughter, which is right at school. But it's a lot of change for the future. SEO didn't exist as a career when I stepped out of university, and God knows what the careers will be as a result of AI for my daughter.
So I do have the final word. Pressure is on me. I think I'm going back to what Kevin was saying. I think 2025 will be the year of agents. And I strongly believe that it's going to be very custom agents. Like you want an agent for UX checker. Like you want your agents to be able to analyze that page and tell you, okay, that specific CTA should not be red, it should be green, or it should not be at the right-hand side, it should be at the left-hand side, whatever. And so you will be able to have that kind of specific analysis. It could be for technical audit. Okay, you want that agent to check if all of your hreflang are well set, those kind of things that are, let's be honest, boring to do by hand. Or you have an amazing tool to do that, like a crawler or a log analyzer, those kind of things. Or it can also be for legal compliance. We were talking about like legal compliance before, or brand compliance. Like you can have an agent saying, okay, you're not using the right word on that specific page, those kind of things. So I think that's the short term. And on the long run, and I honestly don't know if I wish for that yet, I think it's going to come. I think we're going to all have personal assistants, because AI is going to be plugged on everything that we do, on our text message, on our emails, on our Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. And so they will know everything about us. And so we will have our own knowledge base as a person with no memory issues, as we do have as humans. And so I think that's the long run future. And maybe it's not that much of a long-term thing. I think maybe in 5-10 years, we're going to have that. And again, I don't know if I wish for that.
Okay. Thank you all. That was really interesting. And I think we've given our guests and participants a lot to think about. That being said, if you have maybe 3 or 4 minutes, we can run through just a couple questions that we've got here in the question box.
Sure.
And we will start with this one from Rudiger that says, on the content site, getting proprietary data, which every company has about their customers, it will become an SEO job to break down the moats and get this data involved in the content. Would you agree or not?
Is this a poll?
No, it's just I think a question. He wants your opinion.
Yeah, I can chime in here because I've seen that or faced that challenge a couple of times. I think, as always, right, if there's a good business case to be made, then usually the door is open. So one key piece to the puzzle here is to tell the right story with numbers about why that's important. The other thing is to develop a proof of concept for how that actually goes down, right? I think as SEOs, it's not really a strong suit of ours, proof of concepts to show the way. We're usually good at like high-level recommendations, but then following through is a different story. Anyway, I think, so the way that I've approached this in the past is again, like a business case, but then also there are turnkey solutions that mitigate the risks of using proprietary data, which is a concern, right? I think Andreas mentioned this. I think everybody on this panel mentioned this. You know, if you just dump a lot of data into ChatGPT, there is a risk that it will show up on someone's end again, right? So you kind of want to mitigate that. There are tools to do this. And so one exercise that I've done in the past, just to give a concrete example, is I've taken the conversations between prospects and salespeople over the last 30 days, and I've ran them through an AI tool that you can then use to ask questions to these conversations, right? Like, what are some of the pain points that prospects mentioned? What are some of the solutions they currently use? Why do they talk to us? Blah, 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 all these kind of things. So you can use even that type of data. It doesn't always have to be structured. You can use unstructured data to turn it into structured data, and then, and then use that for content generation, for tool building, for all sorts of other purposes. But to break that down into some actual, to an opinion, I think it's possible with the right business case. And there's something to be said about mitigating risks and taking these arguments off the table, because otherwise, even if you get buy-in from, say, product teams, you might get stuck in the legal or procurement red tape that I mentioned earlier, right? So you want to be prepared by using tools that are secure, and then building a proof of concept so everybody can look at this and understand, okay, that's what we're trying to do. And that will also open the doors. If you just knock and say, hey, I want some proprietary data, that usually doesn't go over that well, right? There's a lot of discovery to be done. So take all of that work off of the collaborating team's plates, and then usually the locks will open.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And I think we have time for one last question. I'm going to pick one that kind of groups two together. And it says, do any of you have tips for favorite ways to track website traffic coming from sources like Perplexity, ChatGPT, etc.?
G4 does all the work for us.
Okay. Easy enough.
No, maybe I think, Kevin, you answered directly in the chat, so I'll let you explain.
Oh, yeah. I think a couple of people posted links to dashboards. Honestly, GF4, as Corentin already mentioned, it tracks the referrer for you, but there are already pre-made dashboards that you can get from the chat to do this. So I don't think I can add much more beyond that.
Okay. Well, then I think we can squeeze in one last question if you guys have the time.
Let's go for it.
It is, let's see. We finished answering this one. And it's from Tomislav that says, what are the panel's thoughts on the potential of DevOps site agents responding to crawler user agents, i.e. Googlebot smartphone outliers, triggering different rendering procs?
Yeah.
Andreas just smiled.
I see his.
This one piques my interest a little bit because about 2 decades ago when I started, we were doing selective IP delivery of content depending on to different search engines like when Ask Inktomi, which was Yahoo's search engine bot, and Google, and actually read recently in Kevin's newsletter how we may see another trend again, where we're will we be doing selective IP delivery for search engines and LLMs, or will we choose definitely Google and Bing, and then maybe Perplexity? But again, it's a bit of a Wild West, isn't it, with the LLM search market? We don't know who's going to emerge the winner. You would have said Yahoo pre-1997, and then Google raced out in front. So just going back to your original question, I mean, this, what I just described is something you could potentially do, in response to your question. There is some sort of selective intelligence depending on the different call agents. Not sure if I gave you the answer you wanted, but hopefully it's provoked some thought.
I think it promotes a lot of thought, and I think it's a good place to conclude. So that being said, I would like to thank our brilliant panel of guests for joining us and answering all of these wonderful questions about AI. It's been super interesting getting to chat with you. Thank you to all of the participants for joining us. Sorry we ran over a little time, but I thought it was really relevant to let everyone kind of discuss and share their thoughts, and I hope you found that relevant as well. please feel free to join us for the next session, starting in a few minutes. It's going to be Helen Pollett for the keynote address, looking ahead, SEO industry predictions for 2025. I've just popped the link in the chat. And again, thank you so much, and see you hopefully in the next session. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.